The warehouse door exploded inward with a crash that echoed through the empty Seoul docks. Jae-hyun Ryu walked through the splintered wood without flinching, his black coat trailing behind him like a shadow given form. 3 men knelt on the concrete floor, hands zip-tied behind their backs, blood trickling from their noses. The fluorescent lights above flickered, casting harsh shadows across his angular face. "Who sent you?" His voice was soft, almost gentle. That was when people knew to be afraid. The middleman spat blood onto the floor. "We don't know anything. We were just following orders." Jae-hyun raised one hand. The sound of a gun being cocked filled the silence. He didn't need to look at his second-in-command, Min Jae, who stood in the corner with the weapon aimed casually at the ceiling. The threat was implicit, understood, final. "I'll ask once more." Jae-hyun crouched down, his dark eyes meeting the man's terrified gaze. "Who thought they could move product through my territory without permission?" The man broke. They always did. Within 5 minutes, Jae-hyun had the information he needed. A mid-level gang from Busan testing the waters, seeing if the rumors about the Devil of Gangnam were true. They'd learn soon enough. Everyone did eventually. As Jae-hyun stood and turned toward the exit, Min Jae fell into step beside him. "What do you want done with them?" "Send a message. Nothing permanent, just memorable enough." Jae-hyun checked his watch, a vintage Patek Philippe that had belonged to his father. 6 years ago he'd worn this watch to his father's funeral. 6 years ago he'd stood in the rain and made a choice that would define everything that followed. The memory surfaced unbidden as they drove through Seoul's neon-lit streets. Rain had poured that night too, washing away the last traces of who he used to be. Jae-hyun had stood at a crossroads, literally and figuratively. To his left, the path his father had paved. Blood, power, respect earned through fear. To his right, an apartment in Itaewon where Nyla Monroe waited, probably curled up on their worn couch with a book, her dark curls spilling over the armrest. He'd chosen left. He always chose left. Nyla had looked at him with those impossibly deep brown eyes when he told her it was over. The streetlight outside their apartment had cast amber light across her face, highlighting the curve of her cheek, the set of her jaw as she processed his words. "You're choosing them." It wasn't a question. Her voice had been steady, controlled, even as tears tracked silently down her face. "I'm choosing survival." Jae-hyun had kept his hands in his pockets, afraid that if he touched her, he'd crumble. "My father's enemies are circling. They see weakness. If I show any, if they know about you." "So I'm a weakness now?" The hurt in her voice had cut deeper than any blade. "Yes." The lie had tasted like ash. This was fun, Nyla, but it was never going to be more than that. She'd stood there in the doorway, barefoot, wearing his old university sweatshirt. He'd memorized every detail because he knew he'd never see her again. Then she'd done something unexpected. She'd smiled, cold and sharp. "Get out." Her hand had been steady on the door. "And don't ever come back." He hadn't. For 6 years, Jae-hyun had buried that part of himself so deep that some days he almost believed it had never existed. He became what Seoul's underworld needed him to be: ruthless, calculating, untouchable. The Devil of Gangnam, they called him. A man without weakness, without mercy, without a past worth mentioning. Until Incheon International Airport on a Tuesday afternoon in March, Jae-hyun was there to meet a business associate. Legitimate business this time, a shipping company he'd recently acquired through carefully laundered funds. He'd been standing near the international arrivals gate, scrolling through his phone, when the world tilted on its axis. She walked through the sliding doors pulling a small suitcase, her hair longer now, pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore jeans and a leather jacket, and she moved with a confidence that hadn't been there 6 years ago. But it was her. It was unmistakably her. Nyla Monroe. The woman he'd walked away from. The woman he'd tried to forget. Then he saw them. 2 small hands clutched hers, one on each side. Twin girls, maybe 5 years old, with identical black hair cut in neat bobs. They wore matching yellow raincoats despite the clear weather, their small faces bright with the excitement of travel. One of them tugged on Nyla's hand, pointing at something across the terminal. The other clung closer, shy and observant. The chatty one looked up at her mother, and Jae-hyun's entire world collapsed. She had his eyes, the exact shade of dark brown that was almost black, with that distinctive upward tilt at the corners. The same eyes he saw in the mirror every morning, the same eyes his father had passed down to him. His hand tightened around his phone until the case creaked. The math was brutally simple. 6 years ago, he'd left. 9 months later, Min-jae was saying something beside him, probably about the shipment manifest, but Jae-hyun couldn't hear anything over the rushing in his ears. He watched as Nyla herded the girls toward the exit, completely unaware of his presence, or perhaps deliberately ignoring it. He couldn't tell which would be worse. "Sir," Min-jae's voice finally penetrated. "Are you all right? Change of plans." Jae-hyun's voice sounded distant to his own ears. "Handle the meeting without me." He followed them at a distance, his security training making it easy to remain unnoticed in the crowd. Nyla led the girls to the taxi stand, speaking to them in a mixture of English and Korean. The shy one, Sol, he heard Nyla call her, pressed close to her mother's leg while her sister, Arin, chatted animatedly about something she'd seen on the plane. A taxi pulled up. Nyla loaded their luggage, helped the girls into their car seats with practiced efficiency. Jae-hyun memorized the taxi's license plate, already planning his next move. As the cab pulled away, Erin looked back through the rear window. For just a moment, her dark eyes met his across the parking lot. Then they were gone. Jae-hyun stood in the middle of Incheon Airport's departure area for 10 full minutes, unable to move. 6 years of carefully constructed control, of emotional discipline, of being the man his position required. All of it shattered by 2 5-year-old girls in yellow raincoats. That night he sat in his penthouse overlooking the Han River and did something he hadn't done in years. He poured himself a glass of whiskey and simply sat, staring at the city lights reflected on the water. His phone buzzed repeatedly with messages about territory disputes, shipment schedules, political connections that needed maintaining. He ignored all of it. Instead, he called Jung-ho, his most trusted investigator, a man who specialized in finding information that people wanted buried. "I need you to find someone," Jae-hyun said when Jung-ho answered. "Nyla Monroe, American. She just arrived in Seoul with 2 children. Right away, sir. Are we looking for leverage or protection?" The question made Jae-hyun's jaw tighten. Information only. Where she's staying, why she's here, how long she's planning to be in Seoul. And Jung-ho? Absolute discretion. Understood. The report arrived within 18 hours. Nyla was renting a small apartment in Songdong-gu, a middle-class neighborhood far from the luxury districts where Jae-hyun operated. She was here on a 6-month work contract, translating for an international nonprofit. The twins were enrolled in an international school starting next week. She'd been living in New York for the past 5 years, working as a freelance translator and interpreter. There was no mention of a father in any official documentation. The girls' birth certificates, obtained through methods Jung-ho didn't elaborate on, listed only Nyla's name. Jae-hyun read the report 3 times before burning it in his office fireplace. Then he did something that surprised even himself. He cleared his afternoon schedule, got into his car alone, no driver, no security detail, and drove to Songdong-gu. He found the apartment building easily enough, a modest 5-story structure with a small playground out front. He parked across the street, watching, waiting. For what? He wasn't entirely sure. An hour later, Nyla emerged with the twins. They'd changed out of their travel clothes into casual wear, the girls in leggings and oversized sweaters, Nyla in dark jeans and a simple jacket. She held both their hands as they crossed to the playground. Jae-hyun watched as Arin immediately ran for the swings, her sister following more cautiously. Nyla settled on a bench with a book, but her eyes never left her daughters. She'd become a mother. The realization hit him with unexpected force. While he'd been building an empire of shadows, she'd been building a life, raising 2 children, doing it all alone. He must have moved or made some sound because Nyla's head suddenly snapped up. Her eyes found his across the playground, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Then she stood, her body positioning itself between him and the children with protective instinct. Jae-hyun got out of his car slowly, hands visible, making no sudden movements. As he approached, Nyla said something to the girls that made them pause their playing and look his direction with curiosity. "Walk away, Jae-hyun." Nyla's voice was steady, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. "Right now, I just want to talk. You wanted to talk 6 years ago. I wasn't interested then either." She crossed her arms. "Leave. Before I call the police." "Are they mine?" The question came out rougher than he intended. Something flickered across Nyla's face. Pain, anger, maybe both. "Does it matter?" "Yes." The word was barely a whisper. "It matters." Erin had wandered closer, her bold curiosity overcoming caution. "Mommy, who's that?" "No one, sweetheart. Go back to your sister." But Nyla's eyes never left Jae-hyun's face. "They have my eyes," he said quietly. "They have my grandmother's eyes, too. Genetics are funny that way." Nyla's smile was sharp, defensive. "You don't get to show up now, and Mommy said we don't have a daddy." Erin was right next to them now, staring up at Jae-hyun with unsettling directness. "Are you somebody's daddy?" The question hit like a physical blow. Jae-hyun opened his mouth, but no words came. "How did you answer that? How did you explain to a 5-year-old that you might be her father, but you'd walked away before you even knew she existed?" "Erin, back to the swings. Now." Nyla's mom voice was firm, and the girl reluctantly obeyed, casting one last curious glance over her shoulder. When Erin was out of earshot, Nyla's composure cracked slightly. "You need to leave. I've spent 6 years building a life without you. They're happy, they're safe, and they will stay that way." "I didn't know." Jae-hyun heard the plea in his own voice and hated it. "Nyla, I swear I didn't know. Would it have changed anything?" She laughed, bitter and tired. "You made your choice, Jae-hyun. You chose power over everything else, over us. What makes you think I'd let you anywhere near them now? Because they're mine." The possessiveness in his tone made her stiffen. He immediately regretted it. "I'm sorry, I don't mean it like that. I just mean, I have a right to know them. You have no rights here." Nyla's voice dropped to a fierce whisper. "Do you know what it was like? Finding out I was pregnant 2 weeks after you told me I was just fun? Do you know what it took to leave Seoul, to build a life in a country where I barely knew anyone, to raise 2 children alone? No." The admission cost him. "But I want to understand." "Why?" "So you can ease your conscience. So you can play father when it's convenient and then disappear back into your world of violence and crime?" She shook her head. "I know what you are, Jae-hyun. I knew then, and I definitely know now. The devil of Gangnam. Very impressive, very scary, and completely incompatible with being a parent. People change, do they?" She studied his face. "You're wearing a $15,000 watch and designer clothes that probably cost more than most people make in a month. You drove here in a car that screams money and power. I'm guessing you have security following at a distance even now. Have you changed, or did you just get better at hiding what you are?" She was right about the security. Min Jae was parked 2 blocks away, monitoring his phone tracker. "Old habits died hard, even when you were trying to prove you'd changed." "I'm trying," Jae-hyun said quietly. "That has to count for something." Nyla looked at him for a long moment, then at her daughters playing together on the swings, Saul pushing while Erin flew higher and higher, fearless. "You want to be part of their lives? Yes, no hesitation. Then you follow my rules. Every single one. No exceptions, no negotiations." She pulled out her phone, typing rapidly. "I'm sending you a list. If you violate any of them, if I even sense danger near my girls, you disappear. Forever. Am I clear? Perfectly." His phone buzzed. The list was long and specific. No guards, no weapons, no associates near the children. No discussion of business or your work in front of them. No gifts that draw attention or cost more than a middle-class parent could afford. No taking them anywhere without me present for the first 3 months. No promises you can't keep. Show up when you say you will or don't show up at all. 2 weeks of consistency first. Prove you can do this before you even say hello properly. 2 weeks? Jae-hyun looked up from his phone. 2 weeks of showing up. Same place, same time, every day. You don't approach them. You don't talk to them unless they talk to you first. You just exist nearby. Let them get used to seeing you. Let me see if you can actually commit to something that doesn't benefit you directly. Nyla's expression was hard. Starting tomorrow. There's a riverside park 3 blocks from here. We go every day at 4 p.m. If you can manage 14 consecutive days without missing one, without bringing your world with you, then maybe, we talk about the next step. I'll be there. We'll see. She turned to call her daughters. Come on, girls. Time to go home. As they walked away, Saul looked back at him with those familiar eyes, curious and cautious. Jae-hyun raised one hand in a small wave. She didn't wave back, just watched him for a moment before her sister grabbed her hand and pulled her along. That night, Jae-hyun did something he'd never done before. He delegated. He called Min-jae and gave him temporary authority over daily operations. He rescheduled meetings, postponed deals, and redistributed responsibilities to his most trusted lieutenants. For the first time in 6 years, he made something other than power his priority. Day 1 of the 2 weeks arrived with spring rain. Jae-hyun stood under a tree near the riverside park at 3:45 p.m., wearing jeans and a simple jacket instead of his usual tailored suits. He felt exposed without Min-jae nearby, without the weight of a weapon at his back, vulnerable. At precisely 4 p.m., Nyla appeared with the twins. Arin spotted him immediately, pointing and saying something to her mother. Nyla nodded, then led the girls to a bench about 20 feet away. Close enough that he could see them, far enough that he couldn't hear their conversation. For an hour, Jae-hyun simply stood there. He watched Arin chase pigeons with wild enthusiasm, while Sol collected fallen cherry blossoms and arranged them in careful patterns on the bench. He watched Nyla help them with snacks, wipe Sol's face when she got juice on her chin, laugh at something Arin said with her mouth full. He watched his family and felt the weight of 6 years of choices pressing down on his chest. When they left, Nyla made eye contact briefly, a small nod. Day 1 complete, day 2 was clearer. Jae-hyun brought nothing, said nothing, just stood in the same spot under the same tree. Arin kept glancing his way, clearly curious about the strange man who kept appearing. Sol pretended he didn't exist, focused entirely on her coloring book. Day 3, it rained again. Jae-hyun stood under an umbrella, watching as Nyla and the girls played in the puddles, their laughter carrying across the park. He got soaked. He didn't care. Day 4, Arin waved at him. Just once, a small gesture before her mother called her back. Jae-hyun's heart nearly stopped. Day 5, his phone rang mid-watch. An emergency shipment issue, territory dispute. He sent a text to Min-jae, handle it. Then he silenced his phone and went back to watching Sol show her mother a drawing of what looked like a dragon. Day 6, Yurahan's assistant called. Jae-hyun's fiancée, a political arrangement made 3 years ago to secure certain connections, wanted to know why he'd been unavailable. He declined to answer and blocked the number. Day 7, halfway through the 2 weeks. Jae-hyun realized he hadn't thought about business, about territory, about power in nearly a week. His mind was full of small moments instead. The way Erin's nose crinkled when she laughed, how Sol hummed tunelessly while coloring, the patient way Nyla explained things to them. 8. Sol approached him. She walked over slowly, a piece of paper clutched in her small hand. Nyla watched intently, ready to intervene, but let her daughter make the choice. Sol stopped about 5 feet away. Why do you come here? Jae-hyun crouched down to her eye level. I like watching people be happy. She considered this, head tilted. Are you sad? The question caught him off guard. Sometimes, my mommy says when you're sad you should draw pictures, it helps. She held out the paper. It was a crayon drawing of the park, with stick figures that he assumed were her family. In the corner, standing alone under a tree, was another figure. Him. Thank you, he said quietly. This is beautiful. Sol studied his face for a long moment, then turned and ran back to her mother without another word. But she'd given him the drawing. It felt like more than a gift. It felt like permission. Day 9, Erin asked if he liked ice cream. Day 10, both girls waved when they arrived. Day 11, Nyla let them play closer to where he stood. Day 12, Sol brought him another drawing. This time of what she said was a turtle but looked more like a green blob. Day 13, Arin asked him his name. Jae-hyun, he answered, aware of Nyla's sharp attention. That's a long name, Arin said matter-of-factly. You can call me Jay if it's easier. She nodded, satisfied, and ran off to the swings. But she'd asked. She'd wanted to know. Day 14 arrived with perfect spring weather. Cherry blossoms drifted through the air like snow. Jae-hyun stood in his usual spot, aware that this was the test's final day. 2 weeks, 14 consecutive days. He'd done it. Nyla walked over to him, the girls occupied with digging in a sandbox nearby. You showed up. I said I would. People say a lot of things. She crossed her arms, studying him. You look different. Tired. Running a criminal empire and trying to prove you can be a decent human being takes it out of you. He tried for humor, but it fell flat. Is that what you're doing? Trying to be decent? I'm trying to be present, to be someone they might want to know. Jae-hyun watched Sol carefully pack sand into a bucket. I'm not good at this. I don't know how to be gentle or patient or any of the things a father should be. But I'm here. And I'll keep being here, if you'll let me. Nyla was quiet for a long time. They deserve better than a part-time father who might disappear the moment his real life calls. They deserve better than me, period. But I'm what they've got, whether they know it yet or not, and I'm trying to become someone worthy of that. Words, Jae-hyun. Just words. Then let me show you. He turned to face her fully. What's the next step? I've done 2 weeks. What happens now? She took a deep breath. Now you meet them. Properly. Not as the strange man in the park, but as someone who might be important in their lives. Now, tomorrow. Come to our apartment for lunch. Bring nothing except yourself. Her expression was stern. And Jae-hyun, they don't know you're their father. They think they don't have one. When and how we tell them is my decision. Are we clear? Crystal? Good. 1 p.m. tomorrow. Don't be late. That night, Jae-hyun barely slept. He lay awake thinking about what to say, how to act, whether he could possibly be what those 2 little girls needed. He thought about his own father, cold and distant, even when he was present. He thought about the violence he'd committed, the lives he'd ruined in pursuit of power. How did someone like him deserve happiness? He didn't. But maybe, just maybe, he could earn it. The next day, he knocked on Nyla's apartment door at exactly 1 p.m. She opened it, wearing an apron covered in flour. The girls are helping me make cookies. It's going about as well as you'd expect. A small smile played at her lips. Come in. Take your shoes off. The apartment was modest but warm, full of color and life. Children's artwork covered the refrigerator. Books were stacked everywhere. A photo wall showed Nyla and the girls at various ages, capturing moments he'd missed. Mommy, is that the park man? Aaron's voice called from the kitchen. His name is Jae-hyun, Nyla called back. Or Jay. And yes, he's here for lunch. Both girls appeared, covered in flour, curious and bold in their own space. Aaron spoke first. Do you like cookies? I do. Good, because we made a lot and Mommy says we can't eat them all ourselves. Aaron grabbed his hand without hesitation, pulling him toward the kitchen. Come see. Sol made a dinosaur. It's a dragon, Sol corrected quietly, but she smiled. For the next 3 hours, Jae-hyun sat at a small kitchen table and helped 2 5-year-old girls decorate cookies with more enthusiasm than skill. He listened to Aaron's endless stories about everything from her favorite cartoon to why purple was the best color. He watched Sol carefully pipe icing in intricate patterns, her tongue sticking out in concentration. When they sat down to eat sandwiches for lunch, Aaron asked, Do you have a family? Jae-hyun glanced at Nyla, who gave a small nod. I do. They're just complicated. That means they're difficult, Sol translated for her sister. We learned that word. Very difficult, he agreed. Do you have kids? Aaron asked through a mouthful of sandwich. The question hung in the air. Nyla tensed, ready to intervene, but Jae-hyun simply said, Not that I get to spend time with. That's sad, Aaron declared. Kids are great. Right, Sol? Right, her sister agreed. After lunch, the girls showed him their room, proudly displaying their toys and books and the drawings Sol had taped to every wall. Jae-hyun noticed that the 2 pictures she'd given him in the park weren't there. When he asked about it, she said simply, "Those were for you, to keep." Something in his chest cracked open. As the afternoon wound down and the girls settled on the couch with a movie, Nyla and Jae-hyun stood in the small kitchen, speaking in low voices. "They like you," Nyla said, surprise evident in her tone. "I like them. They're incredible." He leaned against the counter. "How did you do this alone?" "I had to. It wasn't a choice." She poured them both tea. "But it wasn't all hard. They're good kids. Smart, kind, resilient. They made it easier. I want to be part of this." The words came out intense, almost desperate. "I know I have no right to ask. I know I walked away. But I want to be here, Nyla. For them. For you, if you'll let me. This isn't a negotiation you can win with determination and pretty words." Nyla set down her mug. "This is about consistency. About showing up not just for 2 weeks or 2 months, but for years. For their entire lives. Can you do that? Yes. Even when it conflicts with your other life, your business, your obligations." She raised an eyebrow. "What about Yura-han? Last I checked, you were engaged to marry Seoul's rising political star, so she'd kept tabs on him too. That arrangement is ending. Just like that? Because you found out you have children?" Nyla shook her head. "What happens when her family pushes back? What happens when your enemies find out about the girls and see them as leverage?" "They won't. I'll protect them." "How? By dragging them into your world? By making them targets?" Before Jae-hyun could answer, his phone buzzed. Then again, and again. He pulled it out, seeing a flood of messages from Min Jae, from his security team, from various contacts, all saying the same thing in different words. Yura-han's family knew about the children. And they were not happy. His blood ran cold. "I need to make a call." "No." Nyla's voice was steel. "You need to leave. Right now, Nyla. The deal was you come here clean. No business, no problems, no danger. I see the look on your face. That's danger." She moved between him and the living room where the girls watched their movie, oblivious. "Get out. They might already know where you live." "And whose fault is that?" Her whisper was fierce. "I told you. I warned you that your world and our life couldn't mix. You showed up anyway, and now what? Now we're in danger because you couldn't stay away?" The truth of it hit hard. By coming here, by being present, he'd painted a target on their backs. The very thing he'd feared 6 years ago was happening now. Except worse, because now he knew them, loved them, couldn't imagine a world where they didn't exist. "I'll fix this," he said. "How? By making them disappear? By sending us away?" Nyla's eyes glistened with angry tears. "Or by doing what you should have done 6 years ago and staying the hell out of our lives?" From the living room, Aaron called out, "Mommy, is Jay leaving?" Nyla closed her eyes briefly, composing herself. "Yes, baby. He has to go. But he just got here." Irene appeared in the doorway, Sol right behind her. "Are you coming back?" Jae-hyun looked at the 2 little girls who shared his eyes, his stubborn chin, probably his tendency toward intensity. He thought about all the moments he'd already missed, and all the ones he might still lose. Then he thought about his phone full of threats, about Yura-han's family with their political connections and long memories, about the enemies who'd love nothing more than to hurt him through these children. He knelt down, meeting their eye level. "Yes, I'm coming back." "Promise?" Irene demanded. "I promise." Sol studied him with that unsettling perceptiveness. "You look scared." "I am," he admitted. "But I'm still coming back, okay?" She said it simply, accepting it as truth. Then she did something that nearly undid him completely. She stepped forward and hugged him quickly before darting back behind her sister. After he left, Jae-hyun sat in his car for 10 minutes before driving away. He made calls as he drove, each one more terse than the last. By the time he reached his office, he'd set things in motion that would either solve everything or destroy what little remained of his legitimate business. Min Jae was waiting, his face grim. "Sir, the Han family has made their position clear. They see the children as a liability. They're demanding you either publicly disavow them or they'll handle the situation." "Handle it how?" I don't think you want details. Tell me. Min-jae swallowed hard. They're suggesting Child Protective Services might find concerns about Ms. Monroe's fitness as a parent, questions about her finances, her living situation, her ability to provide for 2 children in a foreign country. They have connections. They could make her life very difficult. So that was their play. Not violence, but bureaucracy. Not killing, but destroying. Taking his daughters away not through force, but through systems designed to protect children. It was almost elegant in its cruelty. What are my options? End the engagement cleanly. Apologize publicly. Promise the children will have no connection to your business interests. Min-jae pulled out a folder. Or there's option 2, which is legitimize. Get out of the criminal side entirely. You've been building legal operations for 3 years. We have the shipping company, the real estate holdings, the investment portfolio. It would take time and money to wash everything clean, but it's possible. Min-jae met his eyes. You'd have to walk away from everything your father built. All of it. Jae-hyun thought about his father, cold and powerful until the day someone more ruthless killed him for his territory. He thought about the last 6 years, the blood and fear and loneliness that came with being the devil of Gangnam. Then he thought about Seoul's drawing, still folded in his pocket. He thought about Aaron asking if he was coming back. How long would it take to do it right? 6 months, maybe a year. Do it. Start tomorrow. Jae-hyun stood, decision made. I want every connection, every operation, every shadow deal wrapped up or transferred. I want to be completely legitimate within a year. Sir, the Han family will be informed that the engagement is over, effective immediately. And if they make any move against Nyla Monroe or those children, they'll discover that walking away from the criminal world doesn't mean I've forgotten how it works. His voice went cold. Is that clear? Perfectly. That night, Jae-hyun wrote a letter to Yurahan, apologizing for the abrupt end to their arrangement and offering generous terms for dissolving their engagement. He sent it via courier, along with information about certain business deals her family would want to reconsider. A reminder that he still had cards to play, even if he was choosing not to play them. Then he drove back to Songdong-gu and parked outside Nyla's building. He didn't go up. He just watched the windows, saw the lights turn off around 9 p.m. and sat there until dawn. If the Han family was going to make a move, they'd have to go through him first. At 6 a.m. his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. The Han family has accepted your terms. The arrangement is dissolved. You are now considered a neutral party. Act accordingly. Jae-hyun sent a single word in response, understood. But he didn't move from his car. He sat there watching the sunrise paint the sky pink and gold, thinking about choices and consequences and whether redemption was something you earned or something you simply chose to pursue regardless of whether you deserved it. At 8 a.m., Nyla emerged with the girls for their morning walk to the convenience store. She spotted his car immediately. After settling the girls with breakfast at a nearby cafe, she walked over and knocked on his window. He rolled it down. I'm sorry. Did you fix it? Yes. For how long? Permanently. He showed her the messages, the confirmation of the engagement's end, the agreements he'd signed to begin legitimizing his operations. I'm getting out. All of it. It'll take time, but I'm done with that world. Nyla studied him for a long moment. You're doing this for them? I'm doing it for all of us. Because I want a life where I can show up at 4 p.m. every day without checking for threats, where I can have lunch with my daughters without bringing danger through the door. He met her eyes, where maybe eventually you might be able to trust me again. Trust takes longer than 2 weeks to build. I know. I'm prepared to spend however long it takes. She glanced back at the cafe where Aaron was pressing her face against the window watching them. They asked about you this morning. Aaron wanted to know if you were really coming back. Sol didn't say anything, but she kept looking at the door. What did you tell them? That I didn't know. Nyla's voice softened slightly. But I'm starting to think maybe I do. You showed up, Jae-hyun. Every day for 2 weeks, then at lunch, then all night watching our building like some kind of protective gargoyle. Maybe you really are trying. I am. I swear I am. Then keep trying. Keep showing up. Keep choosing them over everything else. She turned to go, then paused. We're going to the park at 4 today. If you want to come, I'll be there." As she walked away, Erin burst out of the cafe and ran to the car window. "Jay, are you here for breakfast?" "Not today, but I'll see you later. At the park? At 4 p.m. She recited it like a important fact. "Okay, but next time come for breakfast. Mommy makes really good pancakes." Then she ran back to her sister, shouting, "Saul, Jay's coming to the park." Jae-hyun watched them through the cafe window. These two small humans who'd upended his entire existence simply by being born. 6 years ago, he'd chosen power. Today, sitting in his car outside their apartment, watching them eat breakfast and plan their day, he realized he'd finally chosen right. His phone buzzed with messages about business that needed his attention, problems that required solutions, decisions only he could make. He looked at them briefly, then put the phone away. For now, for this moment, the devil of Gangnam was just a man trying to figure out how to be a father. At 4 p.m., he was at the park. At 4:01, Nyla arrived with the girls, and when Erin ran to him, shouting about the picture Saul had drawn that morning, and Saul followed more slowly but no less certainly, Jae-hyun felt something he hadn't felt in 6 years. He felt like maybe, just maybe, he was home. If this story kept you hooked until the end, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss another tale of love, redemption, and second chances. Drop a comment below telling me what you thought of Jae-hyun's journey. Would you have made the same choice? And don't forget to like this video to help others discover these stories. Your support means everything and helps us bring you more captivating narratives every week. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.